everyone. Hope you're doing well. So we have a really special guest over here, and Brent is from like Titan Garage Flooring, and he has a really good background in his business, and he holds some really good values in terms of how he conducts business with people. So Brent, can you give a little background about yourself?
Yeah. I'm the owner of Titan Garage Floors. We've been in business for, I think, a little over 5 years now. I haven't always done what I've done now. I've done everything from, law enforcement to banquet service, working at Chick-fil-A, doing construction work. Kind of how I got into the business is through my dad. He started his company about 16, 17 years ago. So in the beginning, it was just my mom, my dad, and myself doing garage floors. And by the time I moved out, I kind of wanted to try a few other things out. So I, jumped around doing odds and ends jobs, and eventually had a conversation with my dad about, maybe starting my own company, seeing what I thought about that. And um, my wife and I at the time, we were like, yeah, let's totally do it. This sounds like something we'd be interested in. So we sat down, figured out the name, Titan Garage Floors, just by throwing random names around and trying to figure out what we wanted to do. So we started that, and we just were living in an area where my dad was at the time. So we didn't want to be in competition with him as far as business goes. So we marketed to the Charlotte area in North Carolina. So we would market there, get a job, drive 2 hours, and then do the job, drive 2 hours back. Hopefully, we got done in a decent time, but sometimes there were some late nights. Um, Eventually, we built up enough of a clientele to where we were able to move to the Charlotte area. Um, and I joined a local law enforcement office there, and we did, I think I was there for about 6 months, but right before they were about to put me on permanent night shift. And I was like, you know what? I think if I put all of my efforts into just doing the business full time, we can really make this work. So we quit our full time jobs and jumped into doing the business full time, and we've been blessed ever since. So
That's amazing. So you was doing a full-time police officer job at the same time you was doing a business, and you was marketing in Carolina, right?
correct. Yes. Mhm.
And you have to like drive 2 hours just to complete a job.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it was in the beginning.
That's a
There were
really
some
crazy,
there were
and
some
this
long
is
days.
just a yep,
Mhm.
100%. So how was you like marketing in like North Carolina from where you were at? How was that going?
Yeah. So we kind of used a couple of different avenues of marketing that we still sometimes use to this day. A big thing back in the beginning was these mailers that we used to do. They were about maybe this long by this tall, and it had all of our information on them, a nice logo and that kind of thing. And we would target them to certain zip codes in our area that we were able to kind of see through the Postal Service website. So we would be able to target certain people based on their income for that zip code, and be able to say, hey, we want 400 flyers going to this zip code, and a couple of hundred flyers going to that one. So that's kind of how we started with marketing as far as sending out flyers. We also have these signs that we sometimes put up by the side of the road. Those usually get us a good amount of influx as far as calls. And then we also do SEO, and my wife kind of handles um, the social media aspect of things. So
100%. So how did you got into like social media? Because back then it wasn't really a thing, and now you have grown to a really good amount of followers. You have grown a really good page on Instagram as well. So
hmm
how did you get into that?
so my wife is more tech savvy than I am. I'm more of a hands-on kind of person versus she. Um, she's just able to be all on social media, and she just loves that kind of stuff. So I would give a lot of credit to my wife in that. So she's the one who kind of does the background of social media. We bounce video ideas off of each other, like, oh, this angle might be good, or oh, this kind of thing might be good. So it was interesting in the beginning because there wasn't really a lot of people doing what we do on Instagram or anything like that. So we were kind of, I don't want to say the first, but we were one of the few people who were like, hey, we do garage floor coatings. post a video on Instagram and see what happens. And occasionally we would have, a interesting video that would, get a good amount of views. And yeah, it was we kind of just built on that. We're like, okay, that worked. Let's kind of try this and see what happens. So
That's amazing. So do you think like getting more views got you more inquiries about your business, or is that something irrelevant?
no, we've definitely gotten some jobs from Instagram. It's not very many, but I would probably say maybe like 10 jobs because sometimes they'll see our videos on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. And usually it's a younger person, a younger couple or something. And they'll be like, hey, I saw you on, Instagram or TikTok and I looked kind of where you were and you're in my area. So I would love to have you come out and, look at my floor and do it. So um, I wouldn't say it's totally worthless. It's definitely something to help market as far as meeting potential clients, but also it can be seen by contractors who might see your work and be like, oh, hey, we don't have anybody who does that. So I would like to try and reach out to at least this person and get them to do some of the houses that we're building. So that's another big thing.
That's amazing. So do you think like is that something of a trust factor that people see that you have a really good following and they kind of trust you more? Is that something that happens or is it not?
I think that's partially it, since most people find us, on Google and that kind of thing. They usually go to our reviews to kind of see how we run our business, and because on Google you can see reviews versus Instagram, you just see the followers. Followers can be one thing, reviews can be what really people are saying about you. So I would say the Google reviews probably help us the most, but the Instagram following definitely helps get our name out there to kind of push towards the Google reviews or finding us on Google. So
100%. So like I see that you have really amazing reviews on Google. First is like obviously your values that you deliver or how you conduct business, and second is of course your service delivery as well. If you are not doing a good service, then you might not be able to get that good review. But what do you
mm,
think is a good process of getting really amazing reviews? Because like you have 88 plus, I think so, 5-star reviews. That's really amazing. How did you accomplish that?
yeah, so I think right now we actually have 96 or 95. We're almost at the 100 mark. So hopefully we'll hit it in the month of February or March or something like that. But in the beginning, I wasn't really sure how to go about asking for reviews. So one day, because I would kind of ask people to go online and write us a review without sending them a link or anything, and some people were gracious enough to be willing to go out and look us up and then write a review. But I wanted to kind of try to make it simpler for somebody to be able to do that. So there was one day I sat down and I typed out on my phone a well thought out kind of draft to send to somebody, essentially saying, "Hey, thank you so much for allowing us to be able to come out and do your floor. We really appreciate it." Attached at the bottom is a link. If you don't mind, please write what you thought about what we did and how we did it, and I look forward to seeing it. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Kind of something along those lines. And I send that to pretty much every person that we do a floor for because I want to make sure that they know that I'm appreciative that they were able to trust me to be able to come and provide them with a beautiful garage floor. So I would say being humble and always asking if it's okay to send them a review link because some people are it's rare, but some people are like, no, I don't want to do that kind of thing, and that's fine. That doesn't bother me any. It's always nice to ask though.
Yep, 100%. Like what you said is like exactly what I'm not sure if you have heard of like Tommy from A1 Garage Doors. He's built a really massive company and he has like 10,000 plus reviews on Google alone.
Oh wow.
So that's the same thing he said like on
Hmm.
a recent interview on YouTube. He said like it's if you want to get more reviews, just ask. Like you have to ask, be humble and
Yeah.
ask like if we have done a really good job at providing your family a 5-star service, then can you do our family a favor of leaving us a 5-star review or maybe what you think about us? So that's
Hmm.
exactly what he said.
Yeah, that makes sense. 100%.
Yep. So how were your like early days? Like as you mentioned, you were traveling back and forth. Like, did you hire an employee or maybe did you hire a subcontractor to fulfill your jobs, or was it only yourself?
So in the beginning, it was just my wife and I doing floors. It was just the two of us. We never hired any subcontractors or anything like that. I was the salesperson, the worker, and everything else in between. So it was just my wife and I. Essentially, we would go, take road trips. Sometimes we would bring the dog along with us. It just depended on how long we were gone for the day and how big the job was. So, um, yeah, in the beginning it was just my wife and I, and then a couple years down the road we had a daughter, and that kind of took her out from being able to help because she really wanted to stay home and raise our daughter, which I wanted to. So, in the meantime, my brother would step in and help me when needed. And eventually, I hired another gentleman from church that we go to church with. So he's still working with us I think he's been here for like 2 or 3 years almost. So he's doing great. And then we're actually right now training another person to hopefully be able to take my spot in doing floors. I've got to train him for a good amount of time before I feel comfortable with releasing them, kind of taking care of doing floors on their own. But my goal is to kind of be able to take a step back from doing the actual labor and just kind of focus on sales calls and quotes and that kind of thing, letting them be able to handle the day-to-day garage floor installs. So
Makes sense. So now you are kind of transitioning to like delegating most of the labor part, right?
a little bit. Yep, yep. I'm slowly working my way there. Yeah.
Yep, 100%. And as you mentioned, you was a family business for the most part, like starting out, right?
Oh yeah.
And now you're
Yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
slowly like transitioning into like hiring more people and expanding more business, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you say about like hiring those people? Like because you said like you hired that gentleman from the church you went to, and for me as well, like I've hired like few people for whatever projects I do for my clients, for websites. So most of the time, I'm kind of like really hesitant, just like you said, like you
Mm-hmm.
cannot feel comfortable just letting them do the work. So
Yes.
what would you say about that? Finding the right people.
Yeah, finding the right people is really, really hard, especially nowadays, it seems like, because for people like me and you, we're kind of young. Um, it seems like a lot of people in our generation don't really want to work, or they're not really willing to put in the amount of work that we're willing to put in. Um, so that's really hard to do. Like the gentleman that I hired, I think he's 52 or something like that. So he's a little bit older, and he is a workhorse. Like I got real lucky whenever whenever he found our way into our business. So um, I'm really thankful for him and the work he does. He's a great employee. Can't complain anything about him. Uh, but trying to find somebody is really really difficult. You really got to dig. Like I hired him, and I hired another gentleman. He was, I think, 23 at the time, and he did good, but he kind of fizzled out after a year, and he would show up late and that kind of thing, and I can't have that. So I ended up letting him go, trying to find another person. That didn't work out. Another person didn't work out, and now I'm on my other person. So we'll see how this goes. So far, so good. But I mean, it's very difficult trying to find people who are going to put in the same amount of care, because I mean it's my business. I care a ton because my name's behind it. So it's difficult to find somebody who's going to be able to show that much care and place that much importance on doing a garage floor, because it's not their business. This it's going to be difficult for them to care as much. But they're out there somewhere. You got to find them. Like I said, I found my guy at church, and then this gentleman, he was actually doing an install. He was moving furniture into my guy's house, and they just ended up talking and striking up a conversation. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm looking to get out of this business." So um, we kind of talked and had a good conversation. I was able to feel him out a little bit. He seemed like a good worker. So I think it's really, you just got to sit down with somebody, really try to get to know them like a good interview, and hopefully you're a good judge of people.
Yep, 100%. That's also like something I relate to because like the first guy I hired for my business was through a Discord server, a community you can say online, and
Mm-hmm.
turns out he was a local guy and we
Hmm.
met. I had a interview with him, a face to face, one on one. It was a casual chat, and I kind of like felt that he's the right guy. I can trust him, and we have been friends since ever since. Like
Nice.
it's been a good relationship, and that's something I also like see a lot of people struggling with. And like as you mentioned earlier, like most of people of our generation are kind of lazy, and I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I'm not saying like that I'm the most disciplined guy, because I also struggle with that.
Same.
But
Yeah.
we try hard, but like that's something that we see in our generation is maybe because of like social media, because people are more on their phones nowadays instead of like just going out there and doing the thing itself,
Hmm.
and just seeing people other people do it. Like let's say you want to start a business, you might start watching some videos how to start a business instead of actually starting the business. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it's going right now. So
Hmm.
that's another thing. All right. So what will you say about like you hired those people, and now how are you like scaling your business? Because as you mentioned early on, you did mailers, you did SEO and all of that stuff. How are you kind of scaling the business right now?
Yeah. So we're really trying to reach out to more contractors who they build houses and then they have us come in kind of towards the end of the project and do their floors instead of us having to reach out to homeowners who are essentially we do their floor. We typically never see them again just because they don't really have another garage for us to do unless they move or something like that. So instead of doing the floors for more just residential customers, we're trying to get in with the contractors who are pumping out garage floors for us to come and do. So that's kind of how we're trying to scale a little bit as far as one aspect goes, to be able to go find somebody who has lots of floors for us to do, who's actually creating the floors, so we can just follow behind them and be able to do those floors for them. That's one way. Another thing is we're really trying to push marketing a little bit more, spending a little bit more money as far as all of the online things and advertisements and that kind of thing. I'm trying to put out even more signs, and we're doing a home show I think here at the end of the month. So we're going to do that, try to get some leads from there. So slowly but surely.
100%. So like you are trying to build relationships, so that way you can just kind of, because those people already have a lot of customers that they are servicing, and you can just go over there and build a trustworthy relationship with them and kind of take more work from there.
Hmm.
Yep, 100%. So like early on when you started, like just like social media, most people were skeptical about like SEO or website or online marketing. So what made you get into that?
I would say probably my wife leaned more into that than I did, just because I'm more of a face to face people person, and my wife is more of an online person. She was like, "Hey, it seems like everything's going to go online and more digital." I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I don't know anything about that. So she was thankfully the one who kind of stepped up and was like, okay, I'll be able to kind of navigate the social media aspect of things, and um, really just kind of see how much people use Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for, you know, sometimes, whether it be shopping or looking for floors. So we really kind of were like, okay, this seems like this is where things are going. We should probably jump on this bandwagon early and try to get some foothold to where we're able to get up and be able to do better. So
Yep. So how were the results early on for like from your online marketing or website SEO?
I think they were okay. In the beginning, I'm trying to remember. I think in the beginning, my wife designed our website, and with no real uh, education on web design or anything like that, we stuck with it for I think a few months, and eventually she was just like, I really don't know what to do because it's there's a lot that goes on that we have no idea about. So I think we ended up hiring. I can't remember who it was. I don't think we have him now, but we ended up hiring somebody who designed our website and took care of everything. Now we have somebody who I think we've been using them for a little over a year or two, and he does websites for other epoxy floor companies, not in our state, I don't think. So he kind of runs everything and does all the backlinks and all that kind of stuff. So it seems to be working out pretty well right now. So
100%. So like you are also getting results from over there, and you are also trying to build relationships as well, and also like all of the like in-person marketing as well, like mailers, signs, and all of that
Hmm.
stuff.
Yep. Hmm.
So what do you think, like where do you want to be at in terms of like business few months later down the road?
In a few months, I'm hoping to be able to have my guys be able to go out and do a floor by themselves. In my mind, I'm always going to be stressing because that's just the type of person that I am. That happened at one point to where I was able to stay home and have my guys go to work. But the entire time, I was just like, man, I hope they're doing a good job. I'm always thinking in the back of my mind because, I'm not there to be able to see everything that needs to be happening. But I'm hoping to be able to kind of get back in that setting of where I'm staying back, taking more of a sales lead, and then letting them be able to do their thing. And hopefully, depending on how the springtime and summer go, maybe buy another truck and trailer and try to hire another crew or train another crew to be able to go out and do more jobs. So that's kind of our long term goal, to be able to have two, maybe three crews running and knocking out floors, man.
Do you have kind of a story that kind of made you like hesitant for you to trust your guys? Like, do you have something like that?
Well, I don't know, just working with them every day. Um, in our business that we do, we do the flakes, we do the grinding. Not a big deal. You can do grinding for a day or two, and you can get a hold of it. And that's not too bad, too difficult. The base coat, that can be a little interesting as far as rolling it out, getting it the same thickness everywhere, and flaking it. That's not too bad. What really is the kind of pressure is putting on the top coat, because that's what makes it nice and shiny and makes it look. It can either make or break a floor, because if it's too thick in some areas and too thin, it'll look terrible. If you just got to make sure it's rolled out nice and even. So what we do is we use a very fast curing top coat, which does not give you a lot of time to roll out the material before it starts to harden up. So that kind of is working against us, because you're pressured to kind of move quick. And if you have a large area to cover, you don't want to see a lot of roller lines or unevenness or that kind of thing. So right now, we're kind of exploring the waters to see if we can look into getting a slower curing top coat, just so I'm not sitting back at home being like, oh my word, are these guys going to be able to get this rolled out or not? So that's probably what we're going to end up doing. That we've had some close calls as far as not being able to roll it out, but we've been able to make it work. So it's not too bad.
Makes sense, because I was like thinking maybe you had a story where someone messed up a floor and you kind of had to like pay for that or something like crazy like that.
Yeah, well, there was one time where I don't know if I was handling quotes or something like that, but my guys were doing a one car garage, and they ground the floor. They did the base coat with flakes, and usually after about an hour and a half, it's not moving a lot. Like, you can touch it and it's good to scrape. So they called me about an hour and a half in. They were like, "Hey, the floor is still moving." I was like, "How long's it been?" They're like, "Oh, it's been about an hour and a half." I'm like, "Okay, give it about 45 more minutes. If it's not cured, we'll have to scrape it up and do it again." So they gave it some time, and it was still moving. I was like, "How much B did you put in it?" Because there's an A to B ratio that you have to get right. And he went back and he did the process, and he thought of it. He's like, "Oh, I thought it was supposed to be this much whenever it needed to be this much. He didn't put enough in there." So I was like, "Okay, worst case scenario, we just take it all off, we start over, and we just do it again." So we scraped all of that product off the floor. We ground the floor again, and we just did the whole thing from start to finish. So thankfully, in my business, you can always start over. It sucks, but that's what you got to do sometimes. Thankfully, that doesn't happen that often.
Yep, so you had to pay for that yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was a screw up on our end, so we had to eat it and make the floor better. So
Yep, that's something like you have to like even if you are hiring like subcontractors, because you are mostly like doing it either yourself or maybe you have some family people or you are training someone to do it. But most of contractors that I know or maybe business owners that I know use a lot of subcontractors. And if they mess something up, even if they don't tell you, like after some time the homeowner will be like, that guy did not do the right job for me. So it's
Yep.
you who will be like taking on the blame, or maybe
Oh yeah.
because it's your name out there. So you have to
Hmm.
be really careful about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, as the business owner, I'm responsible for everything because they don't call, and my employee, he's not the one that answers the phone. It's me. So I'm the one who's got to explain everything. I'm the one who's got to take care of it. It comes out of my pocket. So ultimately, as the business owner, we are the ones responsible for every mess up and mishap. So
Makes sense. So I see like you were more of like, as you mentioned earlier, you were more of like a hands-on person or maybe a in-person guy. You were managing like a lot of things like through sheet and paper. I saw like your recent post about that, and now you recently started using a CRM Jobber. So what
mhm.
will you say about that?
Yeah, so it's crazy the convenience of Jobber. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was not really interested in it just because, like I said, I'm more of a pen and paper kind of person. I like handwritten contracts that I can have in my hand. I like meeting people in person, that kind of thing. But it it is very difficult to keep track of all those contracts. I've got stacks of contracts here that are like this thick, and good luck finding someone's name or something that I did 5 years ago because I don't have them in alphabetical order. I'm not super organized like that. But with Jobber, it's very easy to keep track of things. Like, oh, I can just type their name into my phone and see when I sent them a quote and see what all the dimensions are and everything. So if someone calls me down the road saying, "Hey, you did my floor at this place. I'd like you to do, another floor that I have that I moved to." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I can look up, see what color they had, see what kind of dimensions they were, and what kind of things they wanted. So with that, it's been very easy. Even with quoting people, they'll be able to submit a quote form online that I can call them. All their information is there, how they found me, whether it be through Google, Instagram, or Yard Sign or something like that. And if they want to, I'll explain to them. I usually kind of give them the process and the price over the phone. And oftentimes they're like, "Yeah, go ahead and send me something in writing," so I can just literally 5 minutes after I'm off the phone send them a quote in writing for them to have right on their phone, whether by text or email. So that makes it really, really convenient to be able to just have that instant access to send it to somebody wherever they are instead of driving an hour or so to go and give them a quote. So,
That's something I teach or preach to every contractor out there, but it's just like more of a skepticism that's kind of holding them back, or maybe they are kind of an old school person that they don't prefer these things. But I think you are a living proof that these things work.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So have you thought about like investing in Google ads or maybe Facebook ads, because I know you are doing a lot of organic SEO marketing. Have you thought about that?
A little bit. It's not something that we've gotten around to yet, just because we're trying to figure out, okay, what's our budget? What do we have money to spend for what? And I think Facebook ads, I don't know if we're running Google ads right now. I'd have to check. But I think we've run a couple of Facebook ads in the past. We don't really get as many leads from Facebook just because, I don't know, people typically find us. We have a bigger following on Instagram. But we have run them in the past. We may be running one now. I'm not 100% sure. But that might be something that we try to look into sometime in the future once we get more of our pipeline full from the jobs that we get in the spring and summer. So,
Like I can give you a basic overview so that you can decide which one you want. Like Facebook is more of kind of a social platform where people are just there to just hang out with their friends and socialize, things like that. Share their selfies in the bar, the club, wherever they are, something like that. And Google Ads is more like people are already searching there for your service. So that's kind of a main difference. That's why Google charges more for ads. So that's how you want to like decide. Even if you invest in something like that, I would say like run a test campaign for a low budget and see the results, and then kind of there take it from there.
yeah.
So that's something I would say.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. So kind of the final thing, if you had to like start your business over again, what would you have done differently?
Oh, man. Uh,
That question, like
I don't know.
everyone like starts thinking like what would they have done differently?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I don't know. I would say if I were looking to grow a little bit faster, I would try to make those connections with contractors sooner. what I can remember whenever we kind of first started, I think a year in, I sent out probably about 50 emails to different big contractors in the area. And I think of all 50, at least 50, maybe one or two responded saying, "Oh, I'm not really interested. We don't know, nothing." And that was like out of 50. So I probably should have pursued that a little bit more um, at the time, but I wasn't really getting most of my business at the time from contractors. It was mostly just from people who were homeowners who wanted me to come and do their floors. So if I were looking back and if I had some advice, I would say try to network a little bit better. Try to get in with those contractors. Try to get into networking events because the more people that recognize you and know your name, that who are going to be able to reuse you as far as your business goes, um, the more jobs you'll get, the better you'll grow, and the more your name will get out there. So that's kind of what I would tell myself for back then.
100%. And that's something I also focus on, trying to network with a lot of people, asking them questions as well. Like, even if they cannot like refer me some people, or even if they cannot like do work with me, I can still ask them like about their experience, about their business journey. So that kind of also gives me a different perspective for each person that I talk to. So that's something
Hmm.
really like it's literally free. Like
Yeah.
nowadays you can kind of like DM some people and just ask them for their advice, and they're surprisingly like I've done that a lot, and a lot of people have been kind enough to like give a positive response or maybe
Hmm.
guide me into a right direction. But that's something I also know with emails. Like email, like if you are reaching out to like 50 people, it's hardly that you might get one or two responses, because that's kind of complicated things that I don't want to go into a long thing
Hmm.
about that. But it's generally like if you want to get responses from email, then you have to send out a lot. That's the thing I will say,
Mm.
because like
Gotcha.
most of the time either your email is going to be in the spam folder, or
Hmm.
either it's going to be like they are going to be receiving a lot of emails like that, so you have to do something unique to
Oh
like
yeah.
stand.
Hmm.
So that's kind of it, and it was an amazing like conversation with you, Brent,
Yeah.
and hopefully somebody find this valuable and implement this in their business as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, man.